Get ready to watch one of the most incredible chess videos you've ever seen in your life. I'm going to show you an opening or gambit that will transform the way you look at chess. It's an extremely popular gambit, and across the entire YouTube platform, I haven't seen a single video about it. The only thing I regret is not bringing this video to the channel sooner. But don't worry, I've prepared it well, and after watching it, all of you are going to want to go out and play it. Let me introduce you to the Dutch Gambit. It's a very solid gambit, extremely effective, and the best part is that you'll be able to play it in the vast majority of your games. Why? Because you're going to play it in the most played opening in the history of chess. Knight to f3, attacking the pawn, knight to c6, defending, and bishop to c4. See it? This is the Italian opening. Here, they might reply with knight to f6 or bishop to c5, and honestly, it doesn't matter at all what they play, because we're going to castle, all right? For example, let's say they play bishop to c5 first, we castle, and that's the most common thing to do, right? Now, it's normal for them to play knight to f6. If they develop the knight first, then logically, now they develop the bishop. All right, when we reach this very typical and common position, which I'm sure all of you have found yourselves in many times before, you're going to play the fearsome Dutch Gambit. It's essentially like an extremely improved and powerful version of the standard Scotch Gambit. And let me explain why. First of all, you should know that here, the only correct move is to capture this pawn with the bishop, right? No one ever thinks to capture this pawn with the bishop. Every time I've played it, they always take it with the pawn. I'm going to explain how to handle it, whether they capture with the pawn, which let me tell you is not a good move, but is what they'll almost always do, or if they capture with the bishop, which is actually the correct way to continue. I'll show you how to play both scenarios. Why is this gambit so good, chess teacher? Well, get ready, because it hides a series of totally wicked moves that'll let you win the game in just a few moves, many times. The first idea behind diverting this e-pawn is to clear the way for our king's pawn to advance to e5. That way, we're already doing something very important, attacking the knight on f6, a knight that doesn't have any good squares to retreat to. First of all, you should know that retreating to to e4, which seems like a totally natural move since it brings the knight to the center, is actually already a losing move. Why? Because this knight is trapped after the move queen to e2. As you can see, it can't go here because of the pawn. Here, there's the bishop. These two squares are covered by our pawn, and it can't go back to this spot, even if it's defended by the queen. Why? Because it's attacked by both the bishop and the knight. That's why it can't jump to e5 here, and most people decide to place their knight on this square here, knight to g4. It seems like a much better move, but I'm telling you right now, we're going to punish it in a super powerful way. First of all, what are they doing to us? They're attacking this pawn with two pieces. A lot of you might think here, well, I'll just defend it with rook to e1, which seems like an extremely strong move. Don't make the mistake of chasing away this knight because they could capture it, even though we would have different traps afterwards, right? Here, there would already be an extremely strong move. And it's the classic one where this knight is on the same diagonal as the queen, and this other knight is undefended. There would come the brutal bishop sacrifice. Bishop takes on f7, luring the king to capture the bishop. We've seen this in a ton of openings. What's the trick? That when this bishop is captured, the knight can now jump in with check, and on the next move, we can capture this knight with the queen. It really doesn't matter where this king goes, because we'll be able to capture without any problem. Right now, we don't have any pawn or piece advantage. Basically, what we've achieved is a position that's vastly superior to our opponents since their king won't be able to castle and is completely exposed. Up to this point, I would normally just show you this variation, but what I'm going to do now is show you how to win it because it's extremely simple. For example, here's a move you need to keep in mind. What happens if they capture this pawn here? Suddenly, you're down a pawn, and not only that, but your queen is under attack, and your opponent's trying to defend their king a bit. If we move the queen far away, they'll take this knight at some point in the future if this bishop disappears, right? This doesn't seem so clear anymore. Well, it's actually very simple to win this. All you have to do is place the queen on e4, attacking this knight. But the idea isn't really about the knight. It's to sneak in through this square here, and we're simply going to win the game. We're threatening checkmate. Do you see it? Seems like there's no problem at all because this knight is here. So here, the black pieces can play whatever they want. But looking ahead at the board, what we're going to do on the very next move is put immediate pressure on that knight with the pawn, and we are going to effectively end the game right then and there, because there will be absolutely no possible way for them to defend the knight and the checkmate at the same time. Remember this well. We're going to play d4, the gambit we're looking at, to capture with the pawn, which is by far the most common move. And now, what do? Well, we push our pawn forward since they've left us a clear path. We just saw how to punish the knight's jump to e4. We've also seen how to punish the jump to g4. There are people who say, well, I'll just move this knight back to its original square, and if things go really badly, I'll develop it through e7. Well, this can be punished in a very strong way, and it's with a variation similar to the Fegatello attack. As you can see, we'll play knight to g5, directly attacking this f7 square with both the bishop and the knight. For now, it's very easy to stop. The move d5 wouldn't work to block this bishop because we would capture en passant. And once again, the threat would remain. And on top of that, we'd be opening the file for the rook. Therefore, d5 doesn't work. The only move that seems to stop this attack is knight to h6. All right, capturing the pawn with the knight wouldn't work either. Why? Because we would simply play f4 and rook to e1, and we'd be in the same situation, right? This knight would have to move, and we'd come in again through this square. That's why here, the move that works is knight to h6. But don't worry, because here we have a very strong and very subtle move. It's rook to e1. It looks like we're not threatening anything. Chess teacher, what are you doing? You're not threatening anything here. Well, actually, you are threatening a lot here because black can't do anything. In fact, whatever they do, they're gonna lose. And that's wonderful. By the way, I'm sure someone has noticed, right? I have this obsession with getting new chessboards. Look at how many boards I have, right? Let me know in the comments what you think about this one here. I love it. Tell me in the comments if this happens to you too. That whenever you go to a store and see a chess set, maybe you don't buy it, but you still feel like buying it? First things first, how can they defend against this? They can't, because if they try to develop this bishop with the d-pawn, whether it's d6 or d5, we would simply capture it, for example here in passant, and we'd be given a discovered check. They couldn't block with the bishop because we have 3 pieces attacking, so there's not much they can do here. And every time I've reached this position, what they've done is castle. All right, mistake. Another mistake. Why? Because we can punish it in a very simple way. As you can see, black's pieces are a bit uncoordinated. More than the pieces, it's this knight on h6. Thanks to having it there, we can start attacking with a lot of force. We have a queen and a knight aiming directly at the checkmate square. There's no other way to stop it except by playing g6, right? There's no other move. Once they play g6, it's true they've blocked the checkmate, but they've created weaknesses. Whenever an enemy pawn from the castling side moves, it creates weak squares. In this case, what's on a weak square? A knight. Perfect. I'm going to attack it. You can watch the video as many times as you need, okay? Here, you're going to understand not just the moves, but also concepts you can apply in all your games. We attack this knight, but don't worry, because this knight can't leave. If it does move, we would simply deliver checkmate. You see it? So this knight can't move. If it can't move, what should they do? Well, the only thing is to defend it with a king. That's what I like, when they only have one possible move, because then I already know what I should play. Since I already know what my opponent's going to play, I already know how I'm going to continue. And here there's a truly spectacular move that gives me goosebumps. If you want, you can pause the video to try to find it, because I'm about to say it right now. The epic and winning move is to sacrifice the queen for the knight. Queen takes h6. A brutal queen sacrifice. First, it has to be accepted, because if the king decides to move, we would capture on h7 and deliver mate. Therefore, it must be accepted. And now what do we do being a queen down, chess teacher? Well, now comes the definitive fork. If knight takes f7, check, and I'm going to take the queen. Come on, chess teacher, you're going crazy. The knight can be taken with the rook. No, because the check isn't just from the knight, but also from the bishop. Thanks to the knight's jump, we deliver a double check. The only way to get out of a double check is to move the king. And when the king moves, we could capture the queen. But since you all are like me and want to win as quickly as possible, there's actually an even stronger move here. Bishop to h6, check. Why can we afford this luxury of playing bishop to h6, check? Because now the king can't capture the knight, since it's protected by the bishop. He can't go to 8-8 because it's protected by the knight. So once again, we have a forced move, this one right here. And as you can see, the stars align once more, and the king ends up in the middle of another pin. You're loving this line, aren't you? Me too. Queen takes knight, check. So what should they do? Well, they have to move the king again. And when they move the king, not only have we won all of this, but we can also capture the rook. Here, if they take the knight, which is a bad move, we would capture the bishop. The good move here is to capture the bishop, but even so, we're still much better off. We're going to recapture this knight, and no matter how much they recapture, as you can see, not only do we have a completely free rook as an advantage, but we also have this passed pawn that's going to be an absolute nightmare for our opponents. A very simple plan I always use is to play knight to d2, rook to 2, and rook to 1 to double the rooks on this point, and thanks to this passed pawn, end up winning the game without any problems at all. Once we play e5, threatening this knight, there's the move d5, which is dangerous. It's an interesting move. Why? Because it says, fine, I'm not going to get rid of this knight, but instead, while you're threatening it, I'm going to threaten your bishop. It's a move that makes sense, but it's dangerous for the black pieces. What should we do if they play this against us? Well, it's very simple. We're going to take the bait. Force moves, which are the ones I like. If we take the knight, the only move they have to avoid losing material is to take the bishop. So now we're getting into a forced move sequence. We keep going with the forced moves, which I love. Pawn takes pawn. In this case, we're threatening the rook. The only square is to place it right in front of the pawn. That's why we keep going with the forced moves. Here, rook to e1, check. They have to block, and we're in a wonderful position for us. I recommend you continue with this move here, bishop to g5. It's a move that has let me win most of my games playing this variation. Why? Because here, I admit that most people play queen to d5 against me, which looks pretty aggressive, but it's not that good if you know how to punish it. All right, here it seems like black isn't doing so badly, right? They have a centralized queen that can't be attacked easily, they're well defended, they're about to kick out our bishop, and they're going to capture this pawn. Well, here we have a wonderful move, and this move is pretty hard to find if you haven't seen the video. It's knight to c3, a move worthy of double exclamation marks. First of all, if the queen is well defended, why are we giving away the knight? This knight can't be taken, because after queen takes queen, in fact, we win their queen. This bishop is pinned by the rook, so it can't recapture. In this case, if they take the knight, they've lost their queen. Of course, they're probably going to want to move the queen before taking this knight, which I understand. But we're going to keep up the pressure, like Morphy used to say. You all know this. Help your pieces, and they will help you. And that's absolutely true, my friends. We're going to play knight to e4. We're going to centralize our knight in such a way that we create different threats, including taking this bishop, and even stronger, the main one, right? Knight to f6 check, and then taking the rook. Obviously, the king can't move away to avoid this. Here you can. Here there's the bishop, and here it would be the same because we would simply give a fork. So they have to move the rook. And the rook can only move here. So as you can see, once again, forced moves. I absolutely love it. But here comes the absolute worst nightmare of knights for our opponent. Pay attention to this strategic move. Knight to h4. And now this queen is starting to tremble. Let's look at this because it's spectacular. They can't retreat to f6 because we would capture it. They can't retreat to g6 because we would capture it. And the exact same thing applies to the move moving the queen to the e5 square. It looks like no one is attacking it, but we would simply play knight to f6 check, and with the discovered attack, we'd capture the queen. The same thing would happen if the queen comes back to d5, because we would just play knight to f6 check, and we'd also take the queen. You see it, right? And looks like there are no more squares. Sorry, this queen fear. There are no more squares left to move this queen back to. Basically, the only thing left is to look for a queen exchange, but in this case, we're not going to do that. Instead, we'll play knight to f6 check again and take the queen. So here, with this nightmare of knights, wherever the queen goes, she's going to end up being lost, either by a direct capture or by a double check. Chess teacher, I see that if they take this pawn with the pawn, they're going to end up suffering a lot. But you yourself told me that the correct move for black was to capture this pawn with the bishop. Yeah, this is the correct variation. However, I'm going to show you a way that has always worked for me whenever they've captured with the bishop to win in a beautiful way that you're going to love. The first thing you should know is that when they capture with the bishop, you want to trade this knight for the bishop so that we gain the bishop pair. What advantage does this variation give black? They maintain their control of this pawn on e5, so now we can't push our own pawn forward to attack this knight on the f6 square. However, there's a move I really love, and it's this one right here. It sets up a lot of threats, and black has to be extremely careful. The main threat is to play f4 now, threatening to capture here. Once we capture here, we threaten this pinned knight. Since this pawn is gone, we also attack the knight that was being supported by this pawn. So they have to be very careful and hurry a bit to drive this knight away. What do black want? They want us to capture this knight with the bishop so their problems are over. But obviously, what we're going to do is keep this strong pin we have on the f6 square. Very well. Here, if black keeps doing anything else, we're going to be able to launch our f4 attack and capture here. We open up the rook, attack here, attack there. So what should they do? Well, basically, the only way they have to stop this pin is the move g5. And here, my friends, comes one of the first beautiful moves of this video. Although we've already seen several, this one might be the best. f4 in this position is devastating. Come on, chess teacher, don't give me a load of nonsense. What are you doing? First, this bishop can't be captured, because if it is, the position is a disaster for black. Pawn takes e5, and now we're threatening this knight with both of our pieces, and we're also threatening the knight on that square with the queen. So this position collapses under its own weight. There's no way to defend, because if this knight moves, we're also threatening the f7 square with the rook and bishop. This is a total and absolute disaster. That's why this bishop simply cannot be recaptured at all. That said, they can try to solidify their position. They can't capture with this pawn because they'd leave the knight hanging. So they should try to capture with this pawn here. So now they have two extra pawns. And now comes another one of those beautiful moves we have in this position. I'm absolutely sure you're going to love it. Rook sacrifice for a pawn. Not only are we down two pawns, but now we sacrifice the rook with a brilliant move. Double exclamation mark. Why is this move so good? Because now this pawn stops defending the knight. We capture the knight and this position just falls apart from every angle. You see it, right? We're attacking this knight with two pieces and it's only defended by one. It can't even move away because we'd capture the queen, nor can it be defended because there's no piece that can protect this knight. If they come with the king, bishop takes, and we'll win the queen as well. So here, well, what they can do is at least try to castle to give the queen an escape route, but then we simply finish in a beautiful and elegant way. Bishop takes knight. We're threatening the queen, and it's true, now she can escape, but here we're about to deliver checkmate in just a moment. If you want, as always, you can pause the video to try to figure out how to deliver this checkmate and do the exercise here with me. And if not, I'm going to give you the solution right now because it's beautiful. Here, the way to deliver an unavoidable mate is this one. Bishop to h8, and there's no way to prevent the queen from coming in on g7 to deliver checkmate on the next move. They could move this pawn, but they can't because it's pinned by this bishop. So whatever they do, we'll simply checkmate with queen to g7, a beautiful variation. What happens if, when we capture here and play this tremendous move pinning the knight, instead of playing a6, they let us play f4, for example? They castle, and as I was saying, they ignore our threat to play f4. Well, don't worry, because here you're going to win in a simple way. We're threatening over here and now to capture this knight. So they don't have many options either, right? What seems like the most normal move here? Well, it simply looks like playing d6 to defend this point. In this case, what we could do is directly capture this pawn, which would open the file for our rook. In fact, here what we're going to do is, instead of recapturing, first bring the knight to c3 because it's going to be a weapon that's really useful for us. This knight wants to jump over here. You see it? Since nothing is threatening us, we can afford to bring the knight in. If they played a silly move now, for example, this one here, we could already jump in and land this really strong pin, right? But here, black can still play with initiative by kicking out our bishop. So what are we going to do? Retreat it? No. Recapture, sorry, the pawn went crazy, recapture this d5 square. And here we ask our opponent, you can do two things, and with both, you're going to lose. That is, if here, for example, they say, well, I'll capture your bishop, I'll capture the knight, and not only that, but by capturing this knight, I also threaten the other knight, I threaten this g7 square attacking the rook, and that's going to be very bad. So what they have to do is capture with the pawn, and once they capture with the pawn, what we're simply going to do, instead of retreating, is take advantage of the fact that we've opened up the rook to capture this knight. So what's happening here? They can't capture with the queen because it's defended. They have to capture with the pawn. And once this king is so exposed, the correct way to finish is with this move here, queen to h5, and this will be over soon. How do they defend this pawn? There's no other way, right? They have to bring the king over, and now we come in with the knight, for example, and we could attack here with two pieces. Or the way I like the most to finish is this one right here. This pawn is completely free, and really here, no matter what they do, we're going to end up almost giving checkmate. Why? Because here, let's suppose they come with the queen, we simply go in, and when the king moves away, boom, we'll capture here, and this king is completely trapped. Checkmate. The correct way for black to play is, when we pin this knight, to play the calm move d6. This is the correct lay, and I'll explain how you should continue, because it's super important to know what to do if your opponent plays well. It's very simple. Simply try to reason through your thoughts. For example, what's our plan? To play f4, right? When we play f4, the idea isn't to capture here or to play a6, because we've already seen that all of that gets punished. The correct move is to play bishop to e6. Let's apply some logic. If we capture this bishop now, we would simply open up this file for the opponent's castling. This pawn would be blocking important squares, so we're not going to recapture. Let's use logic. We want to activate our pieces by defending this bishop. We're going to do it with the knight. So there are two options, knight to d2 and knight to a3. Let me explain. If we keep applying logic, which is what you should always do, you'll choose knight to a3. Why? Because knight to d2 would block the queen from attacking the knight. So knight to a3, and no matter if they capture here, we could recapture with a knight. We're putting pressure on the d5 square, which we could open up here and attack this point. And even though black is in a good position, ours is by no means worse. So I hope you can put this video into practice. Please go ahead and leave me a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to save it so you can watch it as many times as you might possibly need. And as always, I'll see you in the next video, my wonderful friends. Goodbye.